Hi. More music is being released today, in a single day, than was released in the calendar year of 1989. This is what Will Page, Spotify's former chief economist, told Music Radar back in November 2024, even though the piece it comes from was focused on the negative impacts the subscription model has had for music-making softwares. The topic of just how much music was being created and released came up. In the piece, Adam Douglas's aim was to highlight just how many people are using DAWs and being gouged by it. And to illustrate the massive problem facing music makers, Page brought up that statistic. Naturally, many other journalists, news outlets, and music critics alike spotted that quote because why wouldn't you? It's a juicy one. The thought of that much music being released today is legitimately unfathomable. Page never gave exact statistics, but if we are to go by Illuminate's biannual reports on the streaming industry, on average 99,000 songs were uploaded every single day onto streaming platforms during 2024. But it has been higher. In their 2023 mid-year report, on average a mind-boggling 112,000 tracks were uploaded every single day in just the first half of the year. By the year end, it softened down to a still absurd 103,500 tracks every single day. Is there too much music coming out? In Douglas's piece for Music Radar, he pointed out one thing which tells you a lot about the music-making process in the modern day. Citing media, they reported that in 2022 alone, there were 75.9 million creators using music-making software. Mind you, this was a 12% increase from 2021's numbers. To Douglas, this showed off just how big the music creating business is and how lucrative it is for businessmen who are looking to scalp off users. But to me, this shows just how accessible music creating has become for your average person in the era of the internet. If you were to plot me in the 70s and told me professionally create and record a song right now, I might be able to pull it off. I can sing well, mostly shout like I'm the frontman of a hardcore punk band. I know how to play the bass. I know how to play some power chords on a guitar, and I can play some really basic breakbeats. And I know how to record with a reel-to-reel, but I'll have to learn on the fly how to mix and master. So if you were to plot me in the 70s, I can do it, but not easily. Wrangling around instruments, mics, bulky recording equipments, and amps is a huge hassle. Compare that to using a digital audio workstation with all the plugins you can get, and my god, it becomes supremely easy. I don't need a drum kit. I'll just program it on FL Studio. Same goes for a synth, or guitar, or bass, or literally any instrument I can think of. All I need is a computer with a DAW on it, internet access, and maybe a not dogshit microphone. It's dead simple. So making music in itself has become much simpler thanks to the internet, but so has releasing and distributing it. Before the proliferation of the internet, to spread your music you had to put it out physically, be it through cassettes, CDs, or if you somehow can do it as a bedroom artist, vinyl records. Really though, creating the copies is simple. If you had the technical know-how and the right equipment, it was very easy to make one. Where it got tricky was how many you could make. Tapes and CDs are expensive after all, so you were limited to your budget. Where things got extra tricky was distribution. So many beloved artists today who had their start in the 80s to 90s tell stories of how hard this was. Daniel Johnston had to sneak his tapes into takeout bags at his restaurant job just to get it out to the world. Many others started their own record labels with what little money they got to convince their local stores to carry their songs and albums. And there are countless stories of artists hawking their CDs and tapes at concerts and parties to audiences, promoters, and radio DJs in hopes they check out their works. It wasn't easy. If today's releasing environment is a luck of the draw, this was less of a lottery but more of a closed gate system. If you were part of a big record label or had good contacts and friendships, distribution was kind of easy. But if you weren't, you had to fight and scrape your way to get an ounce of recognition. This was why so many wanted to get onto big record labels during the pre-internet era. There's this great documentary where Mike Skinner, aka The Streets, showed off London's finest grime and drill musicians, where he remarked how everyone he has come across has zero intentions of trying to sign on to big labels. Rather, everyone has started their own independent labels or is part of one, collaborating with other indie artists and propping each other up. He compared it to when he was their age and was desperate to sign on to a major label, which he eventually did. But as he points out, the internet has shaken up things significantly. Today's environment is easier. There are no limits to copies as everything is digital, so you can download however many copies you want or stream it to your heart's desire. Distribution too is easy. You don't need to convince big or local record stores to stock your stuff, you just upload it to Spotify, Bandcamp, or SoundCloud. Getting recognition is where the internet gets quite hard, but not impossibly hard like the days of yore. The internet is good at one thing, and that's recognizing great art. Be it the rediscovery of bands like Duster and the Pains of Being Pure at Heart, or popularizing acts like Lil B and Death Grips during the blog era, the internet in the age of technology and information has essentially democratized music making and releasing. There is no set formula to getting big anymore. You don't have to get airtime on big radio stations or bribe your way to get into big record stores. You just need to strike a chord with the masses and they might come. Be it the comedy of Zach Fox and Doja Cat's viral songs, the earnestness of Black Country New Road or Idols, or the boundary pushers in Death Grips or 100 Gex, it feels like the cream rises to the top much easier in comparison to the ancient days of the pre-internet. Of course, it isn't sunshine and rainbows, as social media and the influencer space has made it a rat race for all, and also Spotify's mega playlist has absolutely messed things up, but that's a whole other video. Music, and art in general, has been democratized by the masses and for the masses. Anyone can create music and release it. Want to do it all on your tablet? Madlib made a whole ass record doing this. Want to do it on the trash MIDI with a busted laptop? Chepik Mafia made a whole album doing it. But what has resulted is perhaps something scary. So, is what Page said true? Maybe. There's a lot of complications with this statistic. There's no proper study on how much music was actually released in 1989 in comparison to 2024. However, Discogs has a pretty extensive database of music released by the year, so let's go by that. To avoid any repeats of album formats, we'll filter by master. So, according to Discogs, there was a total of 34,416 releases in 1989. This includes singles, EPs, and albums, by the way. In comparison, 2024 only has 27,156 releases. So, if you've been keeping track, you may be thinking, what gives? Well, what we have to remember is that Discogs, however great a database it is, isn't remotely complete. To get an album on the platform, it needs to have some sort of release besides the digital version, or have some sort of notoriety to it. So that discounts at least 80% of the 99,000 tracks uploaded per day, as most are just hobbyists posting their stuff online. Not only that, the art of the album, EP, or double-sided single isn't all that important in the age of digital streaming. When physical formats was all we had for music, musicians had to convince people to actually buy their stuff. So what would you rather spend your money on? A 12-inch LP with one song on each side, or an entire 12-inch filled with a bunch of songs? The same goes for CD and tape singles. Why buy 2 songs when you can get a whole album of it? Mind you, once you bought it, there's a good chance that's all the new music you are getting for the next month, so you have to choose wisely. Meanwhile, in the modern day, there's no such rat race. Right now, we're in a culture which prioritizes single songs over everything else, which means single releases doesn't even need a side B to convince buyers. It doesn't take an entire album or even double-sided single release to get into the mainstream. All it takes is a ton of luck on social media to pick up a single song of yours. So, that can explain the discrepancy in record releases. Now about that quote. Is it true? Maybe. It's obviously exaggerated, as I don't think 99,000 songs can beat 34,416 releases in total, but a few days worth of releases in 2024 certainly can. You see, Discogs tells you how many releases came out in a given year, but they don't tell you how many songs, so we'll never truly know the correct amount of 1989's music in comparison to today's statistic. It too doesn't record the vast majority of music being released on Bandcamp, SoundCloud, or Spotify. Go on Bandcamp right now, sort by new, click on a random release and search it up on Discogs, and I guarantee you 8 out of 9 times the record doesn't exist on your database. Now times that instance by the millions, maybe billions, and you see why there's a lot of complications with that quote. Side note, I attempted to contact Page to see if he'd like to have a chat, but never got a response. But hey, Will, if you're watching this, I'd still love to have a talk. To be honest, I can't blame Page for exaggerating, nor can you put it on Discogs or any analyst or platform for not having concrete numbers, as the volume of music that is being uploaded day after day is so unfathomably large that I don't even know how anyone could calculate it properly, which is why I think Page said what he said. It may not be entirely accurate, but it gets to the heart of it. Right now, not just in music, but information in general, has a overproduction issue. Resources like the Internet Archive helps us keep stuff around, but they themselves can barely hold everything which is out there, and we're only going to continue accumulating more and more information with each passing day. The problem with this issue is that this is exactly what was promised by the internet era, that everyone has the capability to make what they want easily and publish it to the world, not just to your local scene. But what it has created is a problem so large in scale that it's impossible to wrap your head around. As a man who is obsessed with all things art, I pride myself on being a voracious consumer of everything that's being released. Be it Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, the new translation of Sayaka Murata's book, or whatever cool game is coming out, I love it all. And of course, music is a big part of it. Throughout 2024, there was one thing which was apparent to me. There was a shit ton of music coming out, to the point that I couldn't listen to and enjoy all of it. And I wasn't the only one who was aware of this. From music critics and listeners alike, everyone could see that 2024 was oversaturated, even if the statistics indicated there was less music being uploaded than last year. From the mainstream, indie, and underground, it was a jam-packed year, and my personal year-end list showed it clearly. Even though there were a whopping 40 honorable mentions with a further 26 albums on the final list, there was still dozens of albums which I either hadn't gotten around to listening to or didn't have the time to fully take it in. Perhaps not a lot for professional music critics, but I sure as hell am not listening to music professionally. There's only so much of my time that I can divide into listening to new music before I want to do other things like reading a book or watching a film. When confronted with so much choice, my mind did what most would do, falter and resort to what was familiar. Throughout 2024, there were 3 albums which I exclusively listened to when I wasn't trying out new stuff. Wild Guess by Robber Robber, Diamond Jubilee by Cindy Lee, and What Is Not Strange by Tashiwara. My mind essentially refused to listen to anything else if it wasn't for the express purpose of checking out something new. The worst part was that I found myself seeking out new music less and less, maybe only doing so every 2 to 3 weeks. When it comes to art, I'm a pretty adventurous person. Ever since I was 16, I made it a goal for myself to listen, watch, or read something new every day, and because of that, I like to think, when in reality it isn't true, that I have a diverse taste in art. Except 2024 was different. When confronted with so much choice, my mind just gave up. The year saw so much music come out at such a rapid pace that I couldn't keep up, and it's clear this isn't slowing down any sooner. Is there too much music coming out? Yes, there is. If anything, there's too much information coming out every single day, and it's scary. Is there a way to fix it? I honestly don't know. The beauty of the internet is that everyone has a voice, but what the dot-com bubble bros didn't anticipate is just how much information would be uploaded on a daily basis. No collection of archives in the world can attempt to record all of this. What happens when Bandcamp or SoundCloud shutters its doors because of a lack of funding? Will all of the music created by underground artists disappear the same way it did on MySpace? What if there's that one album just sitting there that will resonate with you like no other piece of art would? What if that piece of music uploaded to SoundCloud is the last remnants of a person who has long died? The worst part is that we've yet to ask how much of the music uploaded is created by a human. What percent of the 99,000 songs uploaded every day actually man-made? It's been proven that many popular playlists have AI music in it. Not only that, how susceptible is that 99,000 to being stolen by AI companies to be used as data to train their algorithm? Depending on how high the ratio of man-made music is to AI, will we see a dilution of music made by humans? How will that affect the way we consume art? Are streaming platforms even equipped to handle such a problem? There's too much music coming out, and it's terrifying. And that's that. Thank you everyone for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe, or don't. Also, I have a Ko-fi page where you can throw me a few bucks if you want to help me out and the channel. Do give me a follow on Instagram and Twitter to keep up with whatever I'm doing. So yeah, I'll see y'all all around.